Great. And we'll get right to it. So any questions or anything come up with Stitch before we look at the videos? Or
No,
Pablo?
but I'm keen. Oh, Pablo. No, but keen to get your thoughts on. We've done a few little circles, or large circles, I should say. You'll see them on the video. So I'm keen to get your thoughts on anything that needs to be tweaked, I suppose, for that purpose.
Excellent.
Um, yeah, no, it's been going good. I haven't been managed to do 4 times per week, sometimes 2, sometimes 3, just from work commitments. But he's going good. He gets
It,
a bit, and as you'll see in this video, a little bit spooky. I mean, not majorly spooky. In fact, he doesn't actually spook, so it's probably all in my head. But he is just a little bit more alert. But I think perhaps it was, I think it. Oh, and I was going to say I think it was getting dark, but no, it wasn't. That was actually in the morning we did that one. So unless I'm thinking of another session, anyway, we'll soon see.
okay. But overall, is his behavior sort of consistently better? Is it spiking up and down? Is it getting worse? What's going on with like his
I'd
nippiness
say
or his
consistent.
attitude?
Yeah, consistently better. He does still sometimes get a little bit defensive and want to nip, but I'm kind of noticing a lot more now. It's probably more to sometimes to do with me when I'm approaching him and my energy. He's so sensitive. The
Mm.
minute I have 0.1% of defensiveness myself, he'll nip me.
Oh, how funny. Yeah.
Yeah, so he really picks up on, yeah, me. So, or any human, I suppose, but yeah. Yeah, but no, he's going well. Seems a lot happier just in general.
Yeah. He yeah, he kind of like the last time we looked at the ground driving. He's not too distracted. Well, they're just there. He makes a liar out of me, of course. But
And that is the scary end of the arena. And Pablo doesn't seem to care as much, but he every time we go up that end of the arena, there's boogie monsters. Oh, and my husband's actually coming down in a ute through the bush, so that's probably also what he's looking at.
uh
Yeah. My husband decides to start the chainsaw and, do some cutting.
yes. But he looks interested. The feel looks good. As he slows down and speeds up, there's a little bit where you lose the contact. So what I would do is if he's making big speed fluctuations and you sort of miss it with matching your speed, when you find
Mhm.
your arms down or lifting, just shorten the reins a
Yeah.
little bit.
Yeah.
And then there's that nice contact. There's that connection as you come past the truck through that corner.
Hmm.
Yeah. And then he feels the connection and starts to kind of play with how he's organizing his body.
Yeah.
He looks a little more forward than I remember from the last video. Are you finding
Yeah.
he's kind of picking up the pace a little bit?
He is, and I don't know whether also it might have something to do with the hay that he's having at the moment. We've got a bit of a hay shortage in WA, and so I normally feed the meadow hay, but I've had to go to oaten hay. So whether or not it's a little bit of extra oats that has given him a bit of bit of extra speed, I don't know.
It's usually as they get more comfortable in motion. What you get
Okay.
is more forward. As they get more efficient, you always get more forward, but it's a controlled forward. And
Yep.
in that process, you might get a random little, yeehaw because they're feeling better. But for the most part, it's a pretty steady, self-controlled increase of energy. And
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
just looks like he's a little more willing to go forward. Like last time we were sort of joking about moving around in a cloud of turtle dust, and he looks like he's
Yeah.
shifted into first gear, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And then just watch, like with the distractions, like he does in that corner. This
Mm-hmm.
time you sort of give him a little bit more, you give him a tap with the long rein a little sooner and a little firmer. And I would do
Mm-hmm.
that. Yeah, I would
Okay.
just sort of say, hey, come on, focus.
Okay. All right. So don't let him kind of look at something for too long before I ask.
I would, yeah, like he's, when you have this little bit more forward, his body really looks, it looks like he's put on weight. So I see what you mean with maybe a change in the feed or maybe the winter season, but he
Mm-hmm.
looks more relaxed. Like it could
Yeah.
just be too kind of a release of that tension that was making him so cranky, because he still looks
Mm-hmm.
kind of loose, like through his back and hindquarter, but he looks a little
Mm-hmm.
bit plumper, not in a bad way, but
Yeah.
just like
Yep.
like everything's sort of softened a bit. And I don't know if it's a little bit of winter beauty fat or if it's a change in the diet or if it's just because he's
Yeah.
starting to let go of that tension in general.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, and here's your
Yeah. Interesting,
circle.
isn't it? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He goes, what do you mean a circle?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it obviously feels quite different for him with the rope kind of a little bit tighter around his bum end and
And
yeah.
it's not really the tightness. What the long reins are doing is preventing the body weight from sort of rolling or shifting left to right
Yeah.
like that. That's all the
Yep.
long reins do is they take away that twisting effect of the spine, which creates the rolling side to side of the barrel and the pelvis. And it's literally sort of a weight shift falling out and falling in. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's not really the feel of the reins as much as
The
controlling that
body.
body weight on a turn is what causes them to engage more.
Ah, okay.
Does
Yeah.
that
And
make
you'll
sense?
see, yeah, it does. Yeah. And I think this way around is his harder side, I would predict. And I noticed last night when I was doing it, he really struggled. It was like he was counter bending a little bit as we were going around that direction. Um, so what that means, I don't know, but yeah. Anyway, you might even see it next time we do one because I think I only do two circles per direction at this stage.
Yeah, and the circles, it's not unusual for them to be bent to the outside at all, to be counterbent
Oh,
with through
okay.
the neck. And what that
Yep.
indicates is the long reins are acting on reducing the twisting motion of the spine rotation, right? Which also
Mm-hmm.
has the effect of leveling the pelvis as well as the back. And so
Mm-hmm.
if they're starting with a disengaged or very unstable hindquarter and back, then as you
Mm-hmm.
work with the long reins, the head gets bent to the outside in order to prevent the back and hindquarter from rolling. And
Ah,
you
okay.
feel that through the reins. But long story short, in order to keep the inside range straight, if that means the neck has to be bent to the outside, then it's telling you just how unstable those hindquarters feel to him on a circle.
Okay. Okay.
Because
Interesting. Yep.
what we don't see or necessarily are aware of when we ride is when the neck's straight, the barrel is rolling side to side, the weight is shifting left to right, and the pelvis is unstable or disengaged. But because we're sort of
Mm-hmm.
front end focused, we don't
Mm-hmm.
notice the more subtle what's happening in the back and hindquarters is visually a lot more subtle than what we can see through the neck and head and even the front legs.
Yeah.
And so we
Yeah.
tend to look at the neck and head to go, oh yeah, they look straight or they look lifted or they look engaged. And meanwhile, the back and hindquarter is like a little, boat in the rough
Rocking.
ocean. Yeah, just
Yeah.
rocking back and forth. And that
Yeah.
is the rotation is the twisting function of the spine. So for us, it's this twist. But if we
Yeah.
were on all fours, if we were a horse, that very same
Mhm.
twisting action, from our perspective,
Yes.
we call it rolling or
Yeah.
tilting, right?
Yeah. Okay.
And
Yeah.
so that's really when you're working on the long reins behind him, you're not directly addressing that particular twisting function of the spine. You're addressing a different function called ideal alignment, which means
Mm-hmm.
you're reducing any side to side bending. So side
Yeah.
to side bending is this motion, as a
Yeah.
side to side twisting is this motion.
Yeah.
And they're
Yeah.
very, very related, but they're
Mm-hmm.
two distinctly different functions of the spine. And
Yeah.
and so what if he has instability that we were seeing on the lunge line where he's sort of rolling that pelvis left and right as well as the back, that's going to
Yeah.
also increase the lateral bending. That's how they interweave, right?
Yeah.
And when we overbend the neck, thinking our horse's midline should feel like a banana on a circle or a turn or
Mm-hmm.
lateral work, what we create is a twist of the spine um, in order to counterbalance excessive bending. They rotate the spine sort of to the outside of the turn. That's very
Yeah.
typical.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so the gentler thing to start correcting, especially if the horse loses forward, is this ground driving because you're not really
Mm-hmm.
working on the twisting, you're working on the bending,
Yes. Yeah.
right? And then when
Yeah.
you go on a circle, two things change. And he let you know how much harder it was right away. So when we go on a circle, the reason we have a static inside rein is because that rein is what helps us feel that weight shift and rolling effect inside to outside of the circle. Does that
Mm-hmm.
make sense?
Yeah.
So your inside rein, if it's a consistent length and you're not moving, your body becomes the center point of the circle, and the
Mm-hmm.
unchanging inside rein directly to his head,
Yeah.
um, that's like a radius of your circle.
So last night when I was doing it, I he was finding it quite difficult, I think, when I stood still, but I think because I was holding the outside rein quite firm, as in not letting that kind of move too much, and the inside rein, I think I was holding it obviously, but that wasn't really my focus. So I wonder if I kind of need to switch that around a bit, and then I'll be able to stand still a bit easier.
Um,
Does that make sense?
it kind of makes sense, but
Yeah.
let me explain how it works. So when you go on the circle, if we
Mm-hmm.
don't adjust the inside rein at all, the inside rein
Yeah.
becomes our rein contact, and the
Yeah.
the tension on the rein is changed by the horse's balance.
Right.
So we
Yeah.
don't shorten it, we don't lengthen it, we don't even move our arm.
Okay.
Nothing. It's literally information as a radius that every
Yeah.
time, if his body weight and his, even if we can't see it, the second that his body weight falls in on the circle, let's say he overloads
Mm-hmm.
the inside front leg, right? Or
Yep.
he twists
Yep.
his back and hindquarter in a way that we can't perceive it. If he's
Mm-hmm.
falling in on the circle, your radius is going to get loose.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? Because
Yes. Yep. Yep.
he's pushing inward on the radius.
Yep.
And
So I
then,
don't gather that up.
nope, you do
No,
not gather
okay.
it up. Nope.
No, okay.
And if he pulls, then you know his body weight is tilting or rolling to the
Hmm.
outside of the turn. And so what
Hmm.
you feel on that inside rein is just like this contact you've developed with him ground driving.
Hmm.
We talked about sort of the feel of holding hands like a five, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so when you go to put him on the circle, and this is why they have to be self-propelled in their forward motion because you have a full-time job feeling the inside rein. Is he tilting in? Is he tilting out? Is he tilting in? Is he tilting out? And so you don't
Hmm.
do anything with that inside rein. You're just feeling it, whether he's staying level coming around the circle or if he's tilting in on the circle or tilting out on the circle. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
then the outside rein is the corrective rein. And what's
Hmm.
confusing about it is it's acting on the hindquarters first.
Okay.
So even though it's
Yeah.
connected to the head, so
Yeah.
let me see if I can
Yeah,
find,
that does make sense because you can really feel it on there on his bum. So I
yeah.
get that. The tension kind of feels on his bum.
So think I think you did your circle early on, and I just want to look at it because what you've got going from the position behind him, you're doing perfectly, beautifully. And if he like he's doing well enough, I would sort of correct him a little sooner, a little firmer. It looks like he could handle it and kind of just keep him focused on business. And
Okay.
not in a
Yeah.
bad way, but say, come on, if you've got time for shenanigans, you could work a little harder. And then
Okay.
I'm looking for where because he shows brilliant moments where his balance comes together. He's more forward, but in a very controlled way. Let me bump it forward and again. I'm trying to find where you did the circle. I think it was about five
Yeah,
minutes in.
I think so. Yeah, I think I did a few laps and then did two circles and then carried on doing straight laps.
So, like right here, that's just perfect. And when you see the speed at which he kind of focuses, his ears come back, he's quiet, he's calm, he lengthens his neck.
Hmm.
That's the speed of the day that is most related to his best balance. And so if he goes a little
Yes.
slower when he gets distracted, don't be worried about saying, hey, come on, let's go back to that speed that was working for you.
Oh, so
Because
ask for the speed.
a little bit,
Yeah.
like you don't
Okay.
want to
Yeah.
overdo it, but you could even still allow the halt, but you don't need to let him have a little snack and drink at the halt. He could,
Yeah.
he could sort of get going again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
He
so
likes
let
to
me,
eat one.
yeah.
So this is the start of the circle. Yeah.
Yeah. So you do a
Yeah.
really good job coming to the inside. You do a really good
Hmm.
job taking your inside rein and holding it steady.
Hmm.
Yeah. And you might need a little bit shorter inside rein so you don't run out of. Now, that is him, not you. That was just his confusion. And
Yeah.
again,
He's like, what are we doing?
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
this
Feeling
is,
different.
yeah, because you're not pulling. If I focus on you a little bit, like there, you're kind of trying to lead him. But really your arms were pretty neutral until he started stopping. So don't think of leading with your inside rein. What you're doing is feeling. You're not
Okay.
you're not giving any direction at all with the inside rein. You're receiving changes of force that's telling you about his weight shifts left to right.
Yep.
And so you see how he has a tendency very quickly to put the slack on that inside rein. He does it most of that
Hmm.
circle. So let me go back just a little to the beginning of the circle where he gets stuck. And
Yep.
and then you lead a little bit and you push a little bit. But do you see how the inside rein goes pull, slack, pull, slack?
Yes.
Yeah. And then now just there, the inside rein gets slack, and then it keeps getting to be more slack, little bump on there, but mostly it's very slack. And then by the time he comes all the way back around, you're having to kind of lift up your arm because that rein's getting very, very loose to the point it's
Yes, so
almost hitting
short.
the ground. Okay,
So shorten the inside one a bit.
so let me pause that there because what that tells you from the feel of the inside rein is that when he makes a left turn, he falls
Mm-hmm.
forward and inward. So he overloads his
Yeah.
left front leg and
Mm-hmm.
his hindquarter, basically, he's sort of tilting forward and inward. That's what put the slack on the inside rein, which
Mm-hmm.
means his back and hindquarter is also going to be going upward and outward.
Yeah.
Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Okay. Yeah.
So this is why they wind up with an outside bend. That's kind of why I'm taking the time to explain the chain of events.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
right here, when he comes around, now when you are accurate, if he loses forward, then he's not ready to do circles. If he's
Ah.
if he slows way down, but he's easy, even if he halts a little, but it's easy to get him walking again,
Mm-hmm.
then it doesn't matter if it's a one step at a time speed or if he
Mm-hmm.
halts a few times but doesn't resist going forward, then he can work on circles. If he sort of goes, it takes a lot of effort to get him to go forward on the circle, then do more work on the ground driving. He's not yet
Okay.
ready. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
what you're going to do on the circle is right here where I sort of froze it. You see the inside rein is very slack,
Mm-hmm.
but his neck looks straight.
Yeah.
This is why we don't understand what a straight horse is back to front,
Mm-hmm.
because he looks straight, but that slack on your radius tells you internally he's not straight and he's not equalizing his body weight left to right, even though he visually looks straight.
Okay.
That's what the inside rein information is that we need to know.
Right.
Does that make
So
sense?
so the inside range should look like my outside range there, that level of tension, if you like.
Wait a tick, I'm getting there. But
Okay.
I want you to kind of follow the whole train of thought because this is a
Yeah.
difficult concept and
Yeah.
it looks backwards. I didn't even teach this concept the first 10 years I used it because it looked wrong. And
Okay. Okay.
I couldn't explain it until many years later, but I did it in
Yeah.
private for a long time because I felt the benefit. I knew it worked, I just didn't know how. And then I
Right.
started showing it to clients and I said, just ignore the head being to the outside. I can't explain it, but it's fine. Right.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
so now I can explain it, but it's a little
Oh,
complicated to explain. So the reason
yeah.
you don't adjust the inside rein is because whenever it's slack, think of his his back and hindquarter is shifting outward, but his weight is falling forward and inward,
Yep.
even though he looks straight. That's
Mm-hmm.
the part that is really difficult for us to grasp, right?
Yeah. And it's not just a fact of me having the rein too long.
Nope.
Nope.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Because you can
Okay.
set whatever size circle you want, and he's either going to fall in, you can have a short radius, a long radius, but he's still going to fall
Yeah.
in or out.
Yeah, because I suppose where you start, if both reins are at the same tension, if you like, and then as they're walking around, next minute one's loose, but they've not changed, they're still out on the same what is it, circumference or whatever, then
Yeah.
yes, then something is changing.
No, this is
And
so
it's
good.
not and it's not the rein length.
Yes, exactly. If you don't change the rein length, then what changed,
Yeah.
right? And so here you are. I'm just going to go right back to the beginning of your circle. And you see how much he's pulling,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you stopped your body, you loosened the outside rein. The inside rein is very tight. That's guiding him on the turn, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where he was sort of thinking he was going to keep going straight. You put him on the turn right there. And then
Yeah.
as soon as he gets off his straight line, he's like, wait a tick, tosses his head. I got to use my
Yeah.
hindquarter. What? So
Yeah.
watch even just there how you did not change the rein length, but the pressure on the inside rein changed drastically. And then
Yeah.
it changed more and more and more towards looseness rather than tight, loose, or tight, 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 tight.
Yes.
Right? So
Yeah.
let's just look at it kind of maybe go to where you're coming off the rail because
Mm-hmm.
you've got the feel. And that's why I said the ground driving will help with understanding the circles on the long reins because you've
Mm-hmm.
got the feel like right here, your arms are very loose, you're matching the speed, you've got a good contact on each rein. And just in this moment, you can tell there's a tiny bit more tension on the left rein and the right rein's a little looser.
Mm-hmm.
So that's him falling to the outside.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But he's on a straight line, and the difference to his body is tracking a straight line requires less hindquarter engagement, less
Mm-hmm.
hindquarter stability compared to a circle.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
So the second we shift from a straight line to a circle, the circle itself is what's sort of encouraging more engagement,
Yes.
not the long
Yeah. That
reins.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as you come around and you see how loose, if you just watch that left rein, because you're going to do a left circle. Loose, 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 loose. You found your length. You slow down your body beautifully. And he goes, wait a minute, you're not behind me. What do I do?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And he pulls. Then he feels the pressure, tosses his head. You get him going. And you see there, he tightens it a lot
Mm-hmm.
and he stops when he feels that tightness. And then he figures out, oh, if I turn, it lightens up and you get him going. Now, from about right when he crosses the camera, is when that
Yeah. Gone
inside
loose.
rein gets looser and looser and looser all the way around the rest of the circle.
Yeah.
You see that?
Yeah.
That's where his head should be bent to the outside.
Right.
And so that's the correction. That's the final piece I want to give you, but you understand where I'm going,
Yes.
what
Yes.
you're
Yeah.
feeling and what you're seeing.
Yeah.
And you see when he finally makes it here on the same length of rein, you're having to lift your arm up to so it doesn't, you can keep the rein. And then you
Mm-hmm.
transition back to ground driving. So I'll let the video play and we'll look. I think you do a second circle, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So here you've got this part nailed, the ground driving. And so when you come around on your circle, you did a great job when he was pulling on the inside rein. You kept the outside rein quite loose. And then he figured
Mm-hmm.
out, oh, she wants me to keep turning left through the resistance on the left rein. Does that make
Mm-hmm.
sense? Then as he
Yeah.
crossed in front of the camera, he started to fall in on the circle. And that's when you
Mm-hmm.
didn't know what to do because he looks
Yeah.
straight, but he's not
Yeah.
straight, right? And so as soon as you feel that slack coming into the inside rein, the correction is to increase the pressure only on the outside rein. So
Okay.
the way you do circles is you're giving and taking only on the outside rein. The inside
Okay.
the inside rein is coming from the horse. The outside
Okay.
rein is coming from you.
Okay. That's good to know. Yep.
Yeah. So
Yep.
if he's pulling, you did that part really well. You sort of just said, okay, let me loosen up the outside rein. And it acts like a lunge line in that moment. He's just
Mm-hmm.
basically coming around on a lunge line. The tricky part is when he starts to put slack on the inside rein. The way you want to think of it is you're kind of pulling the hindquarters towards you with the outside rein.
Okay.
And
Yep.
in that moment that you're pulling the hindquarters towards you, you're taking the front end back out on towards the circle. And that's
Mm-hmm.
what helps them shift their weight and get level.
Okay.
Does
Yep.
that make sense? So it's a little bit backwards, and because the reins are attached to the head, it can be kind of
Yep.
confusing. But what you're actually doing with the outside rein is using that leveraged angle around the hock to stay
Yes.
to
Just
really
pull it in a bit.
you're going to pull it in, which is going to give him,
Yep.
it's going to widen his legs a little more.
Yeah.
It's going to
Yep.
level off the top of the pelvis, and he's going to
Yep.
learn how to push forward like that, level and wide.
Okay.
Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Yep.
That's how it works
Yeah.
on engagement.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so
Okay, that makes sense.
yeah. And so the side effect that is unfortunately kind of catches our attention more than anything else is if they fall in a lot and the hindquarters are unstable, then they're going to be bent to the outside going around the circle because
Mm.
it's the
Yeah.
only thing you can do until once the hindquarters stabilize, all the horses straighten out their neck again. But
Okay.
the but
Okay.
but if the hindquarters are just kind of learning to get level, wide leg stance, engaged, and pushing, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times when you're dealing like with him, kissing spine, he's been upside down, he's a bit high in the croup, all of those
Mm-hmm.
things that make the hindquarter unstable or disengaged, it's you kind of he's not going to look straight when we start to get him straight from the tail forward. The neck will be the
Okay.
last piece that becomes straight
Okay.
through the spine.
Right.
Does that make
Yep.
sense?
Yeah. 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 That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And would you say that the size circle that I've got him on is appropriate for him?
Yes. Yes. Because
Yeah.
he's
Okay.
he's willing to move. He stopped a little, but I would
Mm-hmm.
stay exactly on this program because I think even trying to get two circles in a row right now, he would just lose forward.
Yeah. Yeah. I kind of got the feel that two is quite enough.
Yeah.
Couldn't do too much circling.
Yeah, and I like how you're doing it. So depending on the amount of time you have, what you could do is just make a pattern, like you make a lap around the arena, you do one big circle like you're doing. You're kind of like as he comes around, you're giving him kind of the maximum size circle possible because of course your outside rein has to
Yeah.
go around the outside, so it limits the size of
Yeah.
the circle. But I
Yep.
would do like sort of like you did on this direction. His warm up could be, 3 to 6 laps around ground driving, like you're doing, and he's
Mm-hmm.
doing well with that. And then
Mm-hmm.
when he's sort of nicely forward and relaxed, put in your first circle. And then
Yep.
the goal would be, if he can do it, try it and see how he does. But I would do one lap around the arena driving like this, and then one
Mm-hmm.
circle. And
Yep.
and then keep doing the circle in the same place. So he starts
Mm-hmm.
to kind of anticipate the pattern. Go around the arena, do one circle. Go around
Yep.
the arena, do one circle. If he loses, if he really stops a lot on the circle and you're struggling to keep him forward, then do more laps in between each circle.
Okay. Yep. Yep.
I think he's
Makes sense.
ready for that circle. I think
Okay.
yeah, you did a great job. And the way to look at him, because what you will feel on the long reins will actually match visibly what you see on the top of the hindquarters and through the back, but it won't make
Hmm.
any sense if you look at the head.
Okay. Okay. Yep.
So once
And
you once you begin to ask him on the circle, keep your eye either on the back where the saddle would go, or kind of watch the top of the hindquarter, because that's really what you're feeling more is back here.
yes.
And then you'll kind of
Yeah.
ignore it. If the head's bent to the outside, it's where it needs to be in order to
Okay.
stabilize the hindquarter.
Ah, okay. That's good to know. And not
Yeah.
pull it back, obviously, then.
Don't worry
Yeah.
if it looks straight or doesn't, because
Okay.
basically when they fall in a lot, what happens is you get so much slack on your radius that you really have to give
Hmm.
a strong pull and bring the hindquarters back in on your path of the circle. And
Yeah.
if the hindquarters have been disengaged and unstable, then the only way they can do that is a little bit of an outside bend,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
that outside bend actually remedies, like if you think of when they are tilting their weight forward and in, they're sort of
Hmm.
doing this through the shoulders. And
Yeah.
and when you create an outside bend, it actually helps them shift the weight off that inside front leg.
Okay. Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Mhm.
That's good. And when I am doing the circles, so I need to stay pretty still. Is that correct? I don't walk around in a little circle.
It's easier to learn, and that's why I think it's better if you just do one circle per lap, or you do one
Hmm.
circle every 2 or 3 laps, because for
Yeah.
you to learn the circles with the long reins, it's far easier on you if you don't move.
Okay.
It makes a
Okay.
lot more sense to learn them.
Yep.
There are, of
Yep.
course, techniques where you could move with him, but we're not asking him
Hmm.
to do so many circles that I think that's necessary. That
Yeah. Yeah.
that may be the way to do it in, maybe another fortnight, but right now,
Hmm.
to kind of get that feel of what we're discussing, watching the hindquarters,
Yeah.
and it's kind of
Yeah.
like, have you ever paddled a canoe or a kayak or used the rudder on a boat,
Yeah.
or even
Yeah.
backing a horse trailer or a horse float? It's like the steering is sort of from the tail in this
Yes.
exercise.
Yeah.
So what you're doing is every time he puts slack on your inside rein, you're basically adjusting the rudder with
Yeah.
by pulling the hindquarters in, you're putting the rudder back on the circle, and then the front end figures itself out.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense. He just wanted to say hi to his little friend.
Oh yeah. That mini he's in, it's like my cat in all my videos. He always shows up in the videos.
Yeah.
He likes watching. He's like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah. I want to be a part of it, don't they?
Yeah, so Stitch really looks like he's still enjoying this work.
Yes. Yeah, I think he is. It's like he likes getting into his little work mode. Feel like I'm plowing the field.
Mm-hmm. No, and that's a bit of what we are. That's why, him tugging your elbows, we do give him some weight resistance, and that really helps
Hmm.
them stabilize and kind of it turns the long reins into a little bit more support when we add some weight to it.
Yeah, yeah. I think I do 2 laps first and then I do a circle, I think, from
Hmm.
memory.
And he looks kind of the same both directions. Are you finding he's more equal going left and right?
Yes.
Good.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And really, I think the times that he does stop, um, it's to look at the boogeyman more than anything else, I feel.
Yeah.
So,
No, and that's why
yeah,
I'm saying give him a bit of a thwap and go, come on, concentrate. You know better.
yeah,
Like he
yeah.
has zero fear. Zero. And
Okay.
you
So
know,
it's just a trick.
well, it's just kind of like, do I really have to think about this? You know, do I really have to
Yeah,
focus? So like
yeah.
there, I would have already corrected him. I would just say, never mind.
Okay.
You know, you're
Yeah.
not on neighborhood watch. You know, that's the mini's job now. The mini can have a
Yeah,
lookout while you focus on work.
yeah. I think at one stage the mini starts hooning around the paddock, which is really helpful. Yeah. And we've
No,
had quite cold weather, so that sometimes makes it a bit sprightly too, doesn't it?
yeah.
Cold snaps, yeah.
So do you don't get very cold, like freezing in the winter?
At night time, it gets down to during a bit later, it probably get down to about 0, like
Oh,
maybe
okay.
August, September during the night. But daytimes are normally a cold day would be about 14 degrees. So we don't get cold weather like during the day so much. But yeah, night time gets chilly. Like I think yesterday morning it was 4 degrees
Mm.
in the morning when I went down and fed him. So yeah, quite chilly. Not obviously snow standard or anything like
Right,
that, but
right.
yeah, chilly for us.
And this is awesome. You've got the dog watching, the horse, the mini.
Yeah, I've got
Every
2 other dogs locked in cages because one's a Rottweiler and thinks she needs to protect me the whole time, so she
uh,
she doesn't come out to watch the horses. Yeah.
yeah, but the ground driving, I would say, is right on par. And the fact that
Hmm.
he's picked up his speed of the walk voluntarily and really is pretty consistently keeping that length through his neck as best he can. Um,
Hmm.
this is now what I would say, consider this sort of home base.
Okay.
This
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
is the warm up, this is the cool down, this is the go-to because
Hmm.
it's really working to the point he's calmer, more focused, and his movement is getting better every time I see him.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so then the circles are the challenge, and you'll have to kind of feel your way session by session, how many
Mm.
you can do based on his response, really. I go,
Yeah.
if he's full of shenanigans and got energy, do more circles, put it to work. You know, if he's
Yeah.
distracted and fast and a little wound up from a cold snap, do more
Yeah.
circles. If he's a
Yeah.
bit
Okay.
tired and slow, do more straight lines.
Yes. Yeah.
But yeah, I
And he's
think,
holding his neck quite good, isn't he?
hmm yeah, it's getting longer and longer. Like even that sort of crestiness you should see it kind of level off a little bit more.
Hmm.
Okay, here's your circle. Beautiful
Yeah.
job. And you see, once again, that's his response to what you're doing. He's a little
Mm.
confused and he goes, wait a minute, this is not what we've been doing.
Yeah. Why are you pulling on my bum?
Hmm. And the thing you want to avoid on the circles, the only time is if both reins get really heavy at the same time, which can happen,
Yeah.
then the
Yeah.
horse will literally start dragging you around. And you go,
Okay.
oh, whoops, I forgot to let go and loosen the outside rein because we do that as people, we do that a lot. But as long
Yeah.
as he's putting slack, so he basically had the same pattern on the right circle that we saw on the left circle. The first part of the circle, he pulls, and once he crosses the halfway mark of the circle, he starts putting slack. So basically, he falls in both directions on a circle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Which I'm not surprised because he's very wobbly.
Yes. Yes. And so what you're doing when you pull that outside rein, even if it bends the neck to the outside, you keep
Okay.
pulling the outside rein until, and this sounds, you have to experience it a few times. And what I do is I'll tie when I'm training people, you can tie a little quick release knot when you start your circle.
Yeah.
Just make a little loop in your rein to train your hand not to change the length of the inside rein,
Okay.
right?
Yep.
Or you
Yep.
could even put some tape on there or something that gives you a visual or something you can feel to not
Yep.
adjust the inside rein.
Yep.
So
Yep.
basically, if you had the same, if he were level on the circle, the inside rein would feel exactly like what you've got now. We would call that maybe a 5, 10 being
Yep.
pulling and 0 1 very slack. So it's kind of a maybe 3, 4, or 5. So when he's level on a circle, that inside rein is going to have the same feel. 3, 4, 5,
Yes. Okay.
something like that, right?
Yep. Yep.
So as soon as he goes 5, 6, 7, 8 and pulls, he's tilting to the outside of the circle,
Yep.
right? So you resist on the inside rein by not lengthening or shortening until he kind of rebalances and lightens that feel, but you loosen up the outside rein. What he's
Yep.
doing is the opposite. So when he comes around on a circle, there he almost very quickly starts to put slack on that inside rein. He's still figuring out, oh, you want a circle. So he pulls and then he puts slack. Once he kind of gets the idea that you want him to circle around and he goes forward, he very quickly keeps the inside rein consistently slack. You see that?
Yes.
So
Yep.
what you want to think of is when you pull the outside rein, you pull it until your radius is straight with no
Yep.
slack. Does that make sense? Okay. And so when we have to do that to support the hindquarters, it can create an outside bend through the neck.
Right.
Because
Yep.
the more he falls in, the more you have to pull the hindquarters towards you with the outside rein. And at first, they kind of follow that with their head and neck before they figure out how to shift the weight.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Does that make sense?
I think so. Yeah. I think I'm going to have to play with it and to get the feel of yeah, it all
Yeah, and
going on. So
review the written lesson in the groundwork workbook on long reins on a circle.
yeah,
And I think I do write in there, there's a way to move with the horse because standing still is a little bit more, it's more advanced for his balance. But
yeah,
I think with the two of you, because you're not staying on a circle, I would
yeah.
do one circle while you stand still and then go back to ground driving. Like you're not even going to try
Okay.
two circles in a row.
Yeah.
And
If he's finding it really challenging by me standing completely still, if I was to move like in a small circle, as long as I have the inside rein not changing and just
yes,
managing the outside rein, is that kind of still getting the same effect?
yes. The problem is we
Okay.
tend to adjust
Ourselves, yeah.
ourselves, which does not change their balance.
Yeah,
it just makes it feel good, but it doesn't
that's what I
actually,
thought it might do.
yeah.
Yeah,
And that's pretty
yeah.
much what we all do is we start, if the horse pulls on the inside rein, we tend to make the circle bigger. And when they put slack
Mm-hmm,
on the inside rein, we tend to make the circle smaller. And I go,
mm-hmm,
no, the radius defines the circle.
mm-hmm.
And when you stand still, you feel very clearly what he's doing to that inside rein.
Yes.
And that
Yeah,
gives
yeah.
you the feel and the timing of how much, how often, how long you have to use that outside rein or give the outside rein. And once
Mm-hmm.
you get that clear in your head, it's a lot easier then to move with him on a circle.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
that makes
so
sense.
once he is ready to do more circles or do a circle for say 10 minutes, then
Mm-hmm.
I would do it that way. I would move with him. But
Right.
for what you're doing right now and for really understanding how it works and getting the feel of it, I would just,
Mm.
and if he's
Stay
doing like,
still.
because how long were you playing with the circles before you did this video?
One time before.
Okay, so this is his second time even trying circles.
Yes.
Yeah, he's ready. You'll be fine. He's
Yeah.
going to
Yeah.
object a little bit. He might halt a few
Mm-hmm.
times, but probably
Mm-hmm.
by the sixth session where you start to do just one circle and then you go back out on the rail, I think he's going to like it pretty quickly because it's going to help him gain some stability. Um,
Okay. Yep.
and and because you're not making him stay on the circle, I would make your one circle precise
Yes.
because
Okay.
you'll
Yeah.
kind of help him the most. And then because it's only one circle, he gets relief as soon as he goes back out on the rail. You're not
Yeah.
taxing him. It's not
Yeah.
too
Yeah.
much.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good.
Yeah. And that's why I mean this ground driving now, you guys are getting really good at it. He's happy with it. He's already shown
Mm-hmm.
some improvements. And so this is sort of the home base that you're going to visit the circle. If he really loses forward, then maybe
Mm-hmm.
you only get in like you did in this session, two circles the whole time, or maybe three
Yes.
circles the whole time. Kind of
Yeah.
depends. But
Yeah.
if he's frisky, do more circles
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
because
Yeah.
the circles
Rather
are
than going up the sorry, I
rather,
was going to say rather than going up the spooky end of the arena where he's, potentially going to have a little yeehaw.
yeah. Yeah, and it's part of how I developed the way I work on the long reins was working with dangerous young horses and unrideable horses. And that's why
Okay.
I realized right away, don't do a surcingle. And one of like your both of your guys are on the side of too slow rather than too fast.
Mm-hmm.
The long reins on the circle looked like the miracle antidote for all the off the track thoroughbreds that I was working with that were just bolting out of control.
Mm-hmm.
I put them on the circle on the long reins and they calm down so fast and start to get yeah, I mean, it's harder to do the circles for a horse that doesn't want to go forward. And
Yeah.
it's actually easier and you sort of see the results faster if the horse tends to bolt and run away.
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
They've got
and
some energy to put into it, haven't they?
yeah, and so all you're doing is sort of playing with the feel of the reins,
Oh,
but because
yeah.
it stabilizes, like the reason horses bolt is because they lose control from through their back and hindquarter. So horses
Right.
that rush and bolt are like little kids running down a hill, sort of using momentum,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
they're
And it
not
just gets out
really,
of control.
yeah, it's always on the
Yeah.
edge of control, if ever. And so
Yeah.
those are the types of horses that I would go straight to circles on the long reins. But
Mm-hmm.
with Pablo and
Yeah.
Stitch, you have horses that are kind of not really comfortable going forward, so they resist going forward. And so
Yeah.
that's where the circles on the long reins ultimately give you the forward that they're lacking because they're so unstable through the hindquarter and back. But
Mm-hmm.
you have to kind of navigate them in a way that doesn't make it too hard.
Yeah. 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 So I'm quite excited for this next phase because
Yeah.
I think this is going to really, this is what he needs. I don't know, most of all, but definitely, yeah, I think it's going to really help him.
Yeah, because you'll start to see it's going to make him use the hock, the stifle, the fetlock, kind of
Mm-hmm.
loosen up the hip joint, the sacral lumbar area,
Yeah.
the pelvic rotation, all of that. And
Yeah.
he's a bit uh challenged back there. And so
Yes.
he will tell you when he's reached a threshold of comfort by getting harder and harder to move forward, like what Pablo does. Uh,
Yeah.
But
Okay.
but
And
if you can give him a light tap and he goes back into the walk, no matter the speed of the walk, the only
mhm.
criteria of the walk is that he's self-propelled.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay,
Okay. Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah. That's good. And do you think if there's any underlying issues with his back end, this will show up through this process?
You
Well,
may
it's a bit hard to
see,
say, I suppose.
well, no, I see all kinds of weird things. And so he
Mhm.
may go through a period where he gets a bit busy with his mouth, where he tosses his head and neck. You may
Mhm.
suddenly see, as he starts to actually restore healthy function through the hindquarters, you may
Mhm.
see what looks like lameness when you're working
Mhm.
him, especially on the circle, and
Yep.
go, oh my gosh. But if he's not lame in the pasture or coming out of the stall, some people call this
Mhm.
bridle lameness. It's
Mhm.
it's really that as you're starting to restore the full function of the hindquarters and hind legs, sometimes you finally see what they've been hiding.
Yes, that's what I'm kind of
Hmm.
not expecting, but wondering if it is going to come out because I think, yeah,
Yeah.
something's going on. I didn't mention as well, I think I've mentioned it previously, but sometimes he stands even in the paddock with his back legs crossed like that, like he's trying to relieve some tension somewhere. And he was doing that again the other day after I did some circles. So I didn't know whether that was, I don't know, anything
Yeah.
to be
No, and
concerned about or.
it what it indicates is, again, that can be, so you can think of the lumbar portion of the spine, the sacrum, the pelvis, the
Mhm.
hip joint sort of act like one unit. And
Mhm.
if there's any discomfort in there, and that includes the sacroiliac joint that we talked about with Pablo,
Yeah.
and that can be how they relieve pain in that area is by standing and crossing the legs.
Right. Yep.
So that's why you want to monitor whether or not the horse is self-propelled going forward, because when horses like him hit a certain threshold of discomfort, they're gonna refuse to move forward or they're gonna resist going forward. Your aids have to get quite
Mhm.
firm. And I don't
Mhm.
do I'll give one or two cracks and then if that doesn't work, I go, okay, this is not
Yeah.
him not trying. This is him telling me it's too
Yeah.
uncomfortable.
Mhm.
And that's why I don't
Yep.
call horses lazy, because I go, that's the way he'll tell you if you've hit a pain threshold in the process.
Yes. Yeah.
Because it's like physical therapy. There can be some
Yeah.
discomfort as you start to restore the function. You have to be careful because there can be some discomfort in that process.
Yeah, yeah,
But
that
you
makes
did this
sense.
really, really well. I like how you went from right on to the circle. And you see there, you start pulling the long rein, but as soon as you see his head bent to the outside, I think you doubt yourself.
Yeah, I thought what's going on here.
Hmm. Yeah. He's
Yeah.
definitely
Right. So just to
bent to the outside both
so
directions.
yeah, definitely. So just so it's clear in my head, when the inside rein is loose, I should be slightly tightening the outside rein to bring his hindquarters in.
Maybe a
Okay.
lot. Hmm.
Maybe a lot.
Maybe a
Okay. Yeah,
lot.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah,
So the way
yeah.
you know you're done pulling the outside rein is when
Yeah.
the inside rein gets straight.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And that was like,
It's kind of seems very counterintuitive, doesn't it?
but if you
It's
think
yeah.
about it, because it really made me question, what am I feeling? How is it
Mm,
possible that a horse's head is bent to the outside of the circle and yet I have slack on that rein? How is that
yeah.
possible?
Yeah. I don't know.
Right. And so nobody, like we go, it just looks wrong, so we don't think it through. But I go,
Yeah.
why do I have slack? If his head is bent that far to the outside, why do I not feel him pulling on the inside rein?
Yeah.
Because we're not feeling the head, we're feeling the weight.
Yeah.
And so,
Right.
and so when his head looks straight, he's actually severely overloading the inside half of his body.
Hmm.
And when you pull enough the hindquarters towards you, when you take that neck to the outside, that's how he has to sort of arrange himself for now to actually get the weight level.
Right.
So when
Okay.
he looks
Yeah.
straight, his weight's on level. And when he looks crooked, his weight is now balanced.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
I
Yeah,
know.
it's going to be interesting, isn't it, to see how he comes on in a month?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a game
Yeah.
changer. The long reins on a circle are very hard to understand, but it's an absolute game changer when it comes to restoring healthy engagement of the hindquarters.
Mm,
And if
awesome.
this is your second time, he
Hmm.
did better on his second circle both times.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
his pattern is a little consistent. Like he kind of resists, he pulls at first, he slows way down, he stops a
Yeah.
bit. And
Yeah.
like I said, kind of watch the halting. And if you feel like you're having to work really hard just to get him to walk at all, then do less circles
Hmm.
and do more straight
Yeah.
lines. But
Yeah.
he looks ready to me, like he's figuring this out. So
Hmm.
there I would be pulling the outside rein a little bit more until
Hmm.
the inside rein was a little bit straighter.
Yeah.
And that will more than likely put the neck and head to the outside of your circle.
Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. Lovely. I better be off,
Yep.
Kirsten. I've just got some people trying to get hold of me at work,
Yes,
but
yes, yes.
yeah, unfortunately, work day.
I know. We were close
Yeah,
to
we were
almost being
close
on
to
time.
almost being. Yes. And I was running around the paddock this morning trying to feed everyone and get everything done and like
Yeah,
anyway, it's all
yeah.
good.
No,
Mm,
good,
yeah.
good. And I will
Yeah.
email you the link as soon as I upload it.
Lovely. Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying it. Awesome.
Excellent. I
Okay, we'll
can't
see you
wait to
next
see
time.
Pablo.
Yes. Cool. Thank you.
All right.
Cheers. Bye.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.